All right, so here is session 4 of lesson 13. And again, with the last session for our lessons, it's more or less to just get some more practice in on all the things we've already learned. So, not a lot of teaching with these. It's more or less just reviewing and going over some of the different techniques that we'll use. And while we were showing a lot of techniques, there's still just a couple that I think we should focus on that are actually useful and easier to remember. Let's start with a warm up. And like for this one, for example, it says use any strategy to subtract. Well, we'll just use the um, standard techniques we've been using. So let me rewrite the problem here. So we have a mixed number, 2 and 7 tenths. Mixed is when we have a whole number and a fraction together, and we're subtracting just a normal fraction. So first thing we always do with any adding or subtracting fractions is look at these bottom numbers, look at the denominators, and see if they're the same, and they're not. And we have to find one that can be common between them, or common denominator. Um, Quite often, we can look at our smaller of the two numbers, in this case, a 3, and see if we can change that into the larger number. And we really can't. So we have to use our go-to technique of just taking the two numbers and multiplying them, and 3 times 10 is 30. So we're going to have a pretty big denominator for this one, but the answer we come up with will be accurate. Okay, so this means we have to change both of these fractions and the mixed number. All right, so 2 and 7 tenths is going to become 2 and something over 30. And I know 10 times 3 is 30, and 7 times 3 is 21. Over here, 2/3 is going to be something over 30. 3 times 10 is 30. 2 times 10 is 20. So let's rewrite our problem because now our denominators are the same. It's 2 and 21/20 minus, oops, I got a little mistake there. A little ahead of myself. 2 and 21/30, and then 20 over 30. And that equals, since 2, their whole number, there is another whole number with a fraction. That's just 2. And then we take 21/30 and subtract 20/30 from it, and it is 1 over 30. So it's 2 and 1/30. Kind of an odd answer, and not something we normally see as far as how big of a denominator. And the examples we're doing today aren't going to really look like that either, but I thought that was a good warm up. All right, to get started, go ahead and turn to page 265. And I skipped that first example up the top and I got right into it with number 1. Okay, so here's our two numbers. What is 5 and 4 fifths minus 1 and 9 tenths? Sure you work, so let me just rewrite it here. 5 4 fifths minus 1 and 9 tenths. And look at our denominators. Can I take that smaller number and change it into the bigger one? I sure can, which means I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to keep 1 and 9 tenths, and I'm only going to change the mixed number on the left to 5 and something over 10. And I know 5 times 2 is 10, and 4 times 2 is 8. So I have 5 and 8 tenths minus 1 and 9 tenths. So as we know with subtraction, we have 8 with these. We have 8 tenths minus 9 tenths, and you can't take 9 things away from 8, so we will have to borrow. So I'm going to borrow 1 whole, and over here I'll remind myself that 1 whole in this case is 10 over 10, and that means we will add 10 to this to make it 18. And now we have 4 and 18 tenths minus 1 and 9 tenths. And 4 minus 1 is 3. 8, and then 18 tenths minus 9 tenths is 9 tenths. So our answer is 3 and 9 tenths. So again, I like doing this, and I recommend you do the same. When you borrow from a mixed number and take apart a whole number, I would literally write the fraction equivalent over here. So, and you can know I got these tens by looking at the denominator for it, because 10 out of 10 equals 1. All right, let's move on to our next example. I didn't do all of these, so we're going to skip 2. I like the question. I just feel that we just want to get the basics down. So let's do 3. Kara's bathroom floor has an area of 3 2/3 square yards. She lays down a rug that has an area of 1 1/4 square yards. What area of her floor is not covered by the rug? So this is a subtraction problem. So let's rewrite it. 3 2/3 minus 1 1/4. Look at our denominators first. I can't change a 3 into a 4, so we are going to have to go to our normal procedure for finding the common denominator. 3 times 4 is going to be 12. So everything we change is going to be into a 12, which means 1 1/4 becomes 1 and something over 12. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. For this one, 3 2/3 is going to become something over 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 2 times 4 is 8. And that gives me 3 8/12 minus 1 3/12. And again, check out your fraction parts. And in this case, we're doing 8/12 minus 3/12. We can take 3 away from 8. So that will give us 5/12. And then our whole numbers is 3 minus 1, and that's 2. 2 and 5/12. Let's look over here, and bingo. Got the right answer here. All right, so there is that. For this question, Jordan chose D as the correct answer. How did she get the answer? It looks to me as if she subtracted the 3 and the 1, and then she just added her fractions together, like the 2 plus 1 is 3, and the 4 plus 3 is 7. So fractions can get a little wild sometimes. There's a lot of rules involved, so sometimes kids will forget and just try to throw all the things they remember as far as that goes. So again, probably a good idea to keep your notes out when you're doing the IXL assignment today, just as a reminder of the certain rules if you're having trouble with that. All right, so that was 3. Let's do 4. What's the value of the expression 3/5 minus 1/3? No mixed numbers involved here, so this is pretty straightforward. So I won't take too long with this one. Can't change a 3 into a 5. So our denominator will be a 15. 5 times 3 is 15. So 1/3 becomes 5/15, and 3/5 becomes 9/15. So we have 9/15 minus 5/15, and we don't even have to borrow, or well, we have nothing to borrow from. 9/15 minus 5/15 is 4/15, and that would be B. There you go. All right, we are going to skip 5 because that's another one that has multiple answers, and I don't like that. This is also kind of a trickier question, so I want to skip that one. Let's look at, oh gosh, let's even skip 7, and let's do 8. I didn't want to skip 7 because I have a student named Carter who may or may not be listening to this. So I'm sure during the lesson he'll be very, very entertained by this. But let's do this last one. Find the difference between 1 2/5 and 9/10. So let me write it down. All right. So first step is look at this. Can I change a 5 into a 10? I sure can. So this is 1 and something over 10. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4. So 1 4/10. minus 9/10. Let's take a quick look at our fractions. So I have 4/10 minus 9/10. It wants me to take 9 away from 4. I can't do it. So let's borrow from my one and only whole number here. And remember, our whole number breaks up into 10 over 10, which turns us into 14. So I've got 14/10 minus 9/10, and that will equal 5/10. That answer is totally fine because I never asked for the reduced fraction of it, but you probably recognize 5 over 10 as also being 1/2. So both answers would be acceptable. All right, so that's a pretty good summary of all the stuff that we've done and get some good practice with that. For today, it's L20, subtract mixed numbers with unlike denominators. And from my experience with just going over a few of these questions before assigning it, it's not anything too crazy or anything you can't handle. But do ask me if you have any questions or need some help during my office hours. I will gladly help you out and make sure that we understand it. Thank you.